All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself. This is Ion Toze, and with Retain Tech Foundation, today is the 2nd of March, uh, 2024. And I can't believe we're in the third month of the year, 2024. But it's exciting. It started out well, it's going good. So we are here once more with our monthly regular podcast where we seek to talk and discuss and dive into the issues of ICT, uh, how ICT can be used for national development, personal professional growth, and just what's trending within the ICT world, what's new, what's hot. But for today's episode, we will be just a continuation of our last month episode where we were looking and talking about digital governance and empowering nations. How can governments around the world, mostly in developing countries, use ICT uh, for empowering their nations and our nations? And we'll be looking at examples or case studies of other nations around the world that have successfully implemented ICT uh, and how those implementations are helping to develop or to empower those nations economically and socially and just include everyone that is within their country. So that will be our framework for today, and we'll be just discussing that. What role does ICT play in the modern government system? And if you go back a little bit, how system worked those days and how early government worked and businesses work, you realize that they were using they have people that were full soldiers, right? If I had a mail to deliver to a particular business, if a business has a correspondent for another business, if a government had, a letter or some documents or package for another government agency or ministry, you realize that they have like people uh, that are using those places then to deliver those packages or those goods and services or letter or correspondent to the next office. And he realized that we, over time, people thought that it wasn't that effective, right? So the horses came and then they used that as a means of transportation to get message from one place to another place. But somebody said how to, move from their physical location to the next physical location, right, to deliver those things. And then after a while, we had a telegraph where people were sending messages when the typewriter, the telegraph came. People were using that to send messages instead of sending messengers, right? They used the telegraph to send messages to other government agencies and other government around the world and other people that needed to have access to the information instead of like people traveling for days and weeks and months to get to these places. The telegraph came and it took away that barrier, right? People were now using the telegraph to send messages miles and miles and thousands of miles away. All right, I see our brother just joined. I just welcome, brother Mike. I see you.
Yeah, I kind of driving, so I probably
Okay,
gonna
that's
just
yeah,
when
that's
I
fine.
get home, then I'll just I'll probably
Okay,
done real quick.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm just going to recap of what we did. We were talking about last week. So if you have the time, you want to chip in, then you can keep driving and keep focusing on the road, and then I will continue.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm away from West Coast, so
Okay, all right. So keep your eyes on the road. Keep listening. And then when when you stop, you can
okay.
you can chip in. Thank you for joining on.
All right, thank you.
All right, man, thank you. All right. So as I was saying with regards to how far we've come, from how we communicate and how government conduct businesses. Uh, the telegraph came, and instead of people going on horses and chariots to deliver messages, they now begin to use the telegraph. So people don't have they didn't have to leave. the comfort of where they were or their locality to go to deliver mails and messages that the other party needed. So the telegraph may, took that away, and it was the major, means that government, use, and government agencies and leaders around the world were using to communicate. They were using the telegraph, right? And then they that continued for a while, and then later on, the telephone and the rest of the system came into place and came into being, and you realize that it begins to revolutionize how government conduct businesses, right? So now you're not just writing letter, but you can also talk to the person on the phone, which is way better than writing a letter, which take a time to compose a letter. You now have a few seconds to just convey your message and your idea to another person, another department, or even within your own department or within your own office space. You can now just pick up the phone and call somebody, and then you give them the message that you want to give to them. So we begin to see that transition and that evolution, right, in how government conducted its businesses and how government communicated, and all of those things were done, and the improvement were all made so that you can improve the system, right? You can improve how things are done, how fast we get our job done, how efficient and how effective our system will be or will become. That's why all of those things were introduced into the governance system, right? So it brought a lot of transformation to the public space with different public services. So that is where they all came from. All right, but Mike, you want to add something? Are they driving, or should I just?
Yeah, no, let's go ahead. I will try to chip in.
Okay.
Whatever else to say. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good. All right. So that was that with the telegraph, and then the telephone system and why they were introduced into the system. And then, but then we'll be looking at what is the role of ICT in modern governance in our day-to-day activities, in our corporate life, in our business world, in our professional life, even our personal life. Like when the telephone came, I mean, you remember those days the telephone had at home where like they want to use to rotate, and then you put your finger in a little hole and then rotate. We all had that, right? So it was not just used in government, but it came into our homes, and we all made use of that. Instead of you walk or your mom or dad sending it to your her friend house that was like 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes away, she just took the phone and then dialed the person's number and then to talk to them and convey that message instead of sending you in the dark, to walk along that dark path to carry the message to the person's house or to carry the whatever that information that was supposed to be exchanged. So that kind of play a role in our personal life as well, not just in business or not just in government. So whatever technology that is also it affects every facet, every sector of our life, and every aspect of life is involved, and we all make use of those things. But specifically, we're looking at how what is the role of ICT, right? Information communication technology. That is where we are bringing communication and technology together, right? To be able to disseminate information, share information, and be able to work more effectively and more efficiently. But what are the roles that ICT will play in the modern governance system? The last time we were talking about it, we said that it enhances transparency and accountability. There are different tools that you know government can use to be more transparent and more accountable for the resources that has been trusted to it to accomplish the work of the people. Even in businesses, it serves the same purpose, right? Where it brings about transparency, what's going on. There's more track and balance. There's more check and balance in the system, where you can easily track, where resources are being it's been spent. There's a trail of there's an accounting trail of where did the transfer come from? Where did the money go? When did this guy clock into work? It gets a lot of things that it comes with. And even now they have been taking a step further. Like even like those in the trucking industry will tell you that all the trucks have trackers on them, a GPS. So at any point in time, the trucking company or the business who has a trucking company knows exactly where his truck is at a particular moment in time. how long he's been parked at that place. So you see, in different sector how ICT has been used, right, for ensuring accountability. Because those days the truck driver could go park somewhere and say that, oh, the truck had an issue, right, and you had no way of tracking that. He'll tell you what, I've been driving, but that you should have been there in 1 hour, but you took 6, 7 hours to get there. What happened? I mean, you couldn't track it. So it is his word versus your word, right? So whatever he tells you is what you're going to believe because you got no way of knowing, what happened. But with the GPS system right now and with technology, that is very easy. You can track that process very, very easily and know where the truck is at, how long is it moving, is it stopped, is the truck having issues. So that has helped with transparency and accountability in that sector. It can also do the same thing with government vehicles and government equipments. You can have tracker on those things, and you know exactly where those equipment and those vehicles are at a particular point in time. So it brings about accountability and also bring about in improving efficiency and reducing costs in how we work in conducting government business and conducting the people business, right? Uh, it can streamline administrative processes. It reduces paperwork and it improves service delivery times, leading to cost saving for both the government and the citizens. And that is very key. It reduces the cost, how much money I spend, how much time. And that's what we don't realize a lot of times in Africa and our part of the world in Liberia is that we don't associate our time with cost. But time is very, very costly. We don't get time back, but you can quantify that. So if you can, if let's assume that you using a typewriter or you want to type something, or you still using paper and writing letter by hands, and let us assume you have like 2,000 to 10,000 names, right, of employees that you have to write. How are you going to write those names? Do you need 100 people in the field in a room to write those names down? Do you need two people just dedicated all day, that whole time, and they just write your names down on paper? Or you introduce a digital system that can capture the names of people automatically. And then you don't have to spend, so you reduce the number of time or hours that you're spending to just writing names down or taking names down in that location. And then what happens if you want to search? So you got like 10,000 files or folders in your office in a cabinet from like millions of records from like 10, 15, 20 years ago. And somebody or the business that transacted with you some 10 years ago has come back in town, and then you need to pull a particular record from 10 years ago. What do? Do you go on the shelf? You go in the storeroom where they have all these thousands of boxes stored, and you begin to sort through all the boxes to be able to locate the particular information? Or you can digitize the entire operations and the entire processes, and these files from 10 years ago can be archived in a data center somewhere. That with a click of a button, within 2, 3, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, you have retrieved that data from 10 years ago. Something that would take you like 2 hours, 3 hours to do. Within 10 seconds, you've done that. Now you have all these the rest of the time to spend doing other things. So the ICT in governance is going to help to improve efficiency and reduce the cost of doing business. And most times we don't think about those things when we talk about ICT. And it also helped to facilitate citizens' engagement and participation. Now, with the advent of Facebook and social media, that is where you realize that the citizens' engagement in politics and their government is now at a different level. People are engaging with the government, people are engaging and talking about these things, and policymakers are hearing people talking about these things, and some of them are paying attention to what people are saying on social media, and they're acting accordingly and doing things the right way. But unlike those days when there was no social media, you know, non-existence, people didn't know where to go to express themselves. And in our part of the world, in the developing world in Africa, People don't have access to their leadership, right? So how can a citizen participate if they don't have a process? They don't have a means of participating in the governing process. So now, with the advent of ICT, with the introduction of ICT in governance, government, senators, representatives, and other government agencies can have a web presence, can have an internet access, can have a web portal where citizens can engage in through those processes and through those domains. The senators need a website that they can put on there and inform their citizens from their county or their locality what they're currently working on. And the citizens can engage into that process. The citizen can send complaints that so if you want to engage your citizen in a meaningful way in this day and age, you can have town halls meetings, but with a website. You understand? Anyone in any part of the country can sit on their phone, on their computer, and just go to that form and fill it out and send you information or a complaint about something that's going on, about something they want to find out about a policy that you're working on. And you can also interact with them in that way. Since indeed the senators and the representatives and government officials don't have the time to go to all the different localities, like every week or every day or every month, to be able to inform the citizens of what's going on. If you have a web presence, if you have a website, then you can use that to effectively engage your people, where they can visit those things regularly on a weekly basis, daily basis, whatever time you want to go, and then they can read up on what you are doing for them. What policy are you pushing? What direction is the country going in? So you are using ICT in a way that you are helping the citizens to get involved in the process, and it happens in the developed world. I don't know of a senator or the representative in any developed world, mostly in this country I'm living in America, that do not have a website. They do have a website. They offer services to their constituents. I can go on my senator website or representative website, and I can fill out a form and tell you, look, I want to speak with the senator or representative. I have a burning issue I want to discuss. I fill it out and I send it to him. But that is no existence in our country, and it has to happen so that citizens can feel part of the process. And another thing that ICD can do for the introduction of ICT can do in governance is that it drives economic growth, and that is the most, if not the most, one of the most significant things that ICT will do and can do. Every country, every citizen, everywhere in the world, we desire economic growth. And how is that going to come? Different means. Economic, different means, agricultural, just improving the sector, improving our systems. But even with agriculture, even with improving healthcare, even with improving businesses in the country, the cradle of that in this day and age, in the 21st century, is ICT. I've, I cannot think of a system or a society that can grow economically without an intentional introduction of ICT in its national development policy. Because what ICT does is support entrepreneurship. It enables what we refer to as the digital economy, right? The digital economy is where transaction businesses are done online, are done over the internet, are done on the World Wide Web. And it brings about the e-commerce, and it brings about digital finance, which we see some with the uh, MTN mobile money and the rest of the stuff. Those are all digital finance, online marketplace. And the transaction in the places are seamless. Just imagine those days, 20, 30 years ago, when you had to pay a school fee when you have to buy something from somebody, we didn't have mobile money. So how did we do that process? It was time consuming, hectic. You had to carry physical cash or money every time to do a transaction. But now the process is getting much better, right? Where I can use mobile money and pay my electricity bill. I can use mobile money and pay my school fees. I can use mobile money and do a lot of things. So that's a digital economy. It's driving economic growth. That's faster transaction, reduce transaction time, and reduce the time you're going to take to walk to the bank or to walk to that business to be able to pay your school fees. And in our part of the world, as we current have, there's not a lot of, it's not really driving us right now. And that's something that, we need to pay serious attention to. And a lot of focus need to be placed there. Later on in our podcast, I'll be giving you examples of other countries, how they've implemented, they're taking intentional efforts and intentionally targeted ICT for national growth and national development. And they are all a success story. And it's helped to create jobs. But these things come now without challenges, of course. Introduction of ICT in governance, it comes with challenges, and but it also comes with a vast number of opportunities. So that is a good thing about it. It comes the opportunities and the good things that ICT, the introduction of ICT brings, are more uh always, I would say, always the bad things that uh comes along with it. Because every technology has its ups and downs, of course. But with the introduction of with the opportunity that come with ICT, the introduction of ICT, it comes with more benefits, so to speak. Right. So we talk about where the telephone was used, and we left from the telephone. We had the advent of the computer, system, and then we got down to the internet era. That's the digital revolution, and then we began to see a lot of new businesses started springing up when they introduced the internet bubble came. Right. When the internet bubble is where people begin to use computer network to communicate and interact with each other at different in different locations. And the businesses saw that, they're like, wow, you know what? Uh, I can sell something online. I mean, if I can sit in my house and somebody in another state, I can talk to them and message them, through the computer, and we respond faster. I can be able to sell them something too. I can put something out there that they can see and they like and they can buy it. So it begins to grow. The internet boom came about. That's a give light to the like of Amazon, eBay, a lot of other giants out there, because that was the era. And they introduced, then came the e-government initiatives, digital records, and a lot of online services came about. So we'll just briefly look at a case study from Singapore, right? I'll just give an example of Singapore, how the Singapore went about introducing what we call the smart nation. It was an initiative that Singapore started as a part of its national development with the introduction of ICT. And they took on that and they launched that in 2014. And Singapore today is one of the most prosperous nations and wealthiest nation in the world, because they took advantage of the ICT space, and they were very, very intentional about the process and what they wanted to do. So they drafted a policy called the Smart Nation. And what it was supposed to do was it was to harness information communication technologies, networks, and big data to create tech-enabled solutions. So they were harnessing information and communication technology with computer network and data. Data is information, right? And they came up with that national policy and they called it the Smart Nation. And it was in 2014. And the amount of money that the government of Singapore then in 2014 allocated for that Smart Nation project or policy was four $2.4 billion US. Singapore committed $2.4 billion on a Smart Nation policy or project or initiative, if you want to call it. Just think about it for a second. They were intentional about what they wanted for that country, and they sat down and designed and came up with a policy and they allocated resources in terms of capital or money to that process in the tune of $2.4 billion to be able to achieve that. And there were a lot of things that a lot of different pillars or different aspects of uh, the smart nation. So there were like three main pillars in that smart nation initiative or policy for Singapore. One was the digital economy. So that policy or initiative was to target the digital economy. And then the next thing that it did was to target digital government. The next thing was to target the digital society. So those are the three key pillars of every nation. There is an economy, there's a government, and there's a society. So these three things they interact seamlessly to be able to bring about national growth and national development, to provide jobs. So in Singapore, in the mind of a Singaporean, or Singaporean, they didn't just go with one aspect, say, you know what, we'll do digital government and leave it as that. They targeted three different pillars that interact seamlessly. Because if you leave one out, you're gonna be you're gonna be hampered. It's gonna hamper the process. So they targeted the three pillars: the economy, government, and society. So they had to digitize the economy. They had to digitize their government, and they had to digitize that society. The society has to be in line with the process because if you digitize the government and the society is not digitally educated, how are they going to make use of that system or that process? They're not going to. If you have a digital economy, your citizen cannot participate in the digital economy if digitally they're not inclined. If they don't have digital literacy, they're not going to be able to participate in that. So they combine the three things and say, you know what? These are the three pillars that we need to focus on. Because these are the three pillars for national development: the economy, the government, and society. So, and digital, because if you look at the global economy and the global world, things have changed. Everything is digitalized. Businesses, transactions, and everything is digitized. And even government around the world these days, and even society and people, how citizens work, how they interact, and how they do things, how they buy, how they spend their time. It's a lot of digital, things happening in that space. So those are the three pillars. And I'll just take it back a little bit to uh, our own country. What what do we have? Do we have a ICT policy? Yes, we do have a policy. Ellen came, there was a policy she drafted in prior 2010 or so. They had a national conference, and they drafted a policy, in 2010. And the policy has some very good things in it. Uh, a lot of, they had a summary of the target, the things they needed to, achieve. And uh, so just give me a second. Let me mm, see what to talk about. Okay. Where you are. Okay. Just want to go to the table of contents, just outline what the policy seek to achieve. Okay. So the key pillars of Liberia ICT policy was structure, empower, and transform. It's supposed to expand ICT infrastructure and establish national fiber optic backbone to connect all 15 counties capitals. I don't know today, since 2010, and you do the calculation, I don't know how many years is that. So if you do the calculation from this 2024, 2010, that's 14 years. Have we been able to connect all the capital cities on a fiber optic cable backbone internet? It's up to you to answer that question. And the second thing it did the part the Liberian ICT process sought to do was to address last mile challenges to ensure universal access to voice services and broadband, supported by the adoption of infrastructure sharing, a DIC one's policy, and effectiveness of universal access fund to meet the needs of it undeserved area. How many areas in Liberia, undeserved area in Liberia, for the past 14 years have had access to internet? 3, leverage the access of telecommunication operators to support improved connectivity in Liberia. How, for the past 14 years, after 14 years, how improved, how much have our telecommunications infrastructure improved? Services. 4, ensure government has access to efficient connectivity services along with a data center and backup facilities to serve the needs of all government departments. After 14 years, can we boast of that? Where all government agencies and ministries are connected and we have a data center, a national data center as a backbone for that. Ensure critical ICT infrastructure is well protected and effective response mechanisms are in place to deal with cybersecurity issues. I don't know how we even have that. 6, foster the development of efficient government e-services and online application for support and for Liberia's economy. That's a key one. Yes, there are few government agencies and ministries in Liberia. They've implemented e-services, but to what extent is the question after 14 years of this policy being in place. Establish a national educational research network for all tertiary and secondary education institutions to provide access to high-speed internet and digital education services. Do we have that after 14 years? Can we boast of that? Can we boast of the establishment of a national education and research network for all our universities and secondary education institutions to provide access to high-speed internet and digital education services? Do we have high-speed internet access on our university campuses, community colleges? But we had the policy down for 14 solid years. It said use ICT to drive inclusion of women, marginalized, and indigenous groups. How are we using that ICT? And the ICT we have in Liberia current, I can state to you, is just in Monrovia. It's not outside of Monrovia. Boast the development of a vibrant e-commerce and digital services in Liberia. Can we boast of that? Where we have a vibrant e-commerce after 14 years of this policy? Do we have a vibrant e-commerce and digital services sector in Liberia? Or are we still struggling with that? 12, improve access to information transparency through the design and implementation of an open data initiative. Yes, there are some government agencies and ministries that said you can go on there to access data and information about how the government is working and what things are going. But 98% of them do not have that. We don't have that. To localize administrative technical and ensure effective management of the Liberia Country Code. All right, so those are all very good policies. Those are all very good framework document. I mean, it's clearly written, it's clearly stated. But the question is, after 14 years, what can we point to? And this was Singapore in 2000. Singapore started a whole initiative or Smart Nation initiative in 2014, just about 4 years after we drafted our ICT policy. Go back to Singapore and go back to Liberia and do a case study and do an analysis. Where are we as a nation, and where is Singapore today? After our almost 14 years, and after Singapore 10 years of implementing a smart nation, and see how much improvement they have made by by that policy that they brought, and about how much they've committed to that process. They committed $2.4 billion. How much did Liberia commit to its ICT policy, to making sure that these policies are implemented and these things are carried out? How much did we put there? I didn't see anything in the document that told me that Liberia committed $300 million or $200 million in annually in its budget for the ICT, for the implementation of the ICT policy, to make sure that we are a digital nation, a government that is providing these things for its people. So that's why it is important for national development and national growth and job creations. Do we understand the number of jobs that's going to be created if we can fully implement this policy and this ICT document? And we have all government agencies and ministries fully adopting digital literacy, digital technology, or ICT, at local levels and at the national levels. We're talking about creating thousands and thousands of jobs. But we sit every day and say that the country, there's no job in the country. What that brings is also it comes with education and training, right? Because as I said, I think as we look at the Singapore example, they didn't just say digital government. They said digital economy. I mean, the economy of the nation, digital government, and a digital society. That's where the people are involved. That's why we are training people. We are establishing institutions. We are making sure that at the elementary level, at the junior high school level, at the high school level, at the tertiary level, at our university, at every level, we've integrated ICT, computers, lab, advanced systems in those places, and training the generation and the younger people. And then they begin to have an appreciation for ICT. But if we cannot have a trained workforce, if we cannot have a digital society, the people in that society, if they don't have the necessary skills, no matter how much you implement at that level, no matter how much e-governance you have in place in government, how can a citizen use the services if they don't know how to use it? So there are three key areas that we need to focus on. And that entails equipping our public schools at all levels, developing curriculum, science, and technology that will integrate ICT into the curriculum from the early age, so that we can have a digital society. We can have people who appreciate the ICT and who have the necessary skills, basic, intermediate, advanced skills. We all have to have advanced skills, but we must be able to use a computer system when we see it. We must be able to send an email. We must be able to open a PDF document. We must be able to conduct a video call with somebody for an interview. So we need to implement that to give people the necessary skill set at different levels. It could be basic skills. Some people just need basic skills. Some people need intermediate skills. Some people need advanced skills. And all interact at different levels. The ordinary citizens, what they need are just basic digital skills to be able to access the digital system of the government, of the society, and then they can make use of that if they have the basic skills. But if they don't have the basic skill set, then how can they use the system that's been put in place? And that is where Rethink Tech Foundation comes in. We are doing our part in that space where we are training and equipping citizens with the necessary digital skills and helping at the same time to establish ICT labs around the country, one city or one county at a time, by giving the citizens the necessary skills they have and then giving them an appreciation for ICT. And then when the system is there, they know exactly how to use it and what it's used for. So we currently have a project going on in San Nicolas. It's halfway, and we currently have a campaign going on where we are raising funds for the project in San Nicolas, and we are calling on all well wishers and people who are interested in seeing a digital society to help us in that process. And you can support us on our website. There's a donation button. Just go to rethinktechfoundation.org. You go to the project page or support us page, and there's a link there that you can click on, and you can have access to, you can have means of donating to us and donating to the process. But pretty soon, and by next week, we'll be emailing some of you people, sending you messages, and sending out flyers, looking for your assistance. It could be $2, $10, $20, $40, $50, whatever the Lord laid on your heart, whatever you have that you can contribute to the process, so that we can realize our desire to have a digital society, because that's what we focus on. We're not focused on digital government. We're not focused on digital economy in a part, but our focus is more on the digital society. That is where every citizen has some level of ICT skills. It could be business skills, it could be advanced, it could be intermediate skills. Then when people have those skill set, they begin to appreciate ICT for what it is. And then when people have those skills and the government begin to implement and the economy begin to fully and intentionally implement and adapt ICT in its functioning, its working, then the people are in tune with that process and are in sync with the process, and they will be able to effectively and efficiently use the system that's been provided by the government. So that is where we are working in that space. So that's just an example of one example of a country that has successfully implemented ICT in its and has a national policy, and it said put the money to where your mouth is, right? So Singapore committed $2.4 billion to that process. So we as a nation, Liberia, Africans, we need to do the same. We need to commit money to that process, because it helps, it creates jobs, opportunities for a lot of young people and young graduates. It's amazing that somehow these things are there, but we don't think about it, right? But it's there. It can help us to achieve, you know, provide a lot of jobs for the young people and a lot of jobs for young graduates coming from school. So it's something that we need to think about very seriously. I'll give another example of another country that is right with us in Africa, Rwanda. Rwanda also has its national ICT policy. And Rwanda has positioned itself as one of the ICT hub or information technology hub within Africa. And if you bear with me to say, I know a lot of Liberian students go to Rwanda to study, work, and and the rest of the stuff. That means the country is doing well. If you're going to send your citizens to a particular country, that means they're doing something that's good. That's why we go in there for schooling and the rest of the stuff that we go there for. But Rwanda also had an ICT policy that the government established, and they established a clear framework, and they were committed to that process, and they emphasized education, healthcare, and governance. And then within that policy, there was infrastructure development. You develop the infrastructure, because you cannot implement ICT to its fullest if you don't have necessary infrastructure all across the country. High speed internet, fiber optic cable. right? So we cannot have telehealth, for example, where the doctors or the nurses in San Nicola can sit there and contact a specialist in Morovia who that hospital doesn't have access to, who is not physically present at the hospital, right? If you in San Nicola as a doctor and you have a patient that have a particular case, but you have the doctor who have the specialty in that case is in Morovia. So how do you conference with him, right? That's telehealth. You need internet access. You need very good internet access to be able to collaborate with him, doing the patient care. So Rwanda had intention and they improved their infrastructure, high speed internet, good services that is not lagging behind. And once they did that, then they can implement other things. Rwanda also implemented digital services and e-governance. And I know Rwanda, for doing business in Africa, I think the last time I checked, they were like the first on the list. The number of days to take you to register business in Rwanda is like a day. You can just go online, fill a form. Your business, once you have all your requirement and everything else, it's a day or two. The business is registered in Rwanda. No matter where you come from in the world, any part of the world you come from, you want to do a business in Rwanda. And the registration process. So it took away all the middle people that we have to go through. Like now you go to Liberia or other African countries to register a business, it takes a couple of days. It takes weeks. You gotta go through all these hoops and loops of different people, different offices, and it's there. Or the director's not here to sign it, so you can't sign it right now. You gotta wait. Like this is just a lot of processes that are redundant. But Rwanda implemented a system, a digital system for business registration that is seamless, effective, and efficient. And Rwanda didn't just stop there with the digital services and e-government infrastructure. So the same thing Singapore did, right? Rwanda came to education and skill development. So they realized that we cannot implement all these digital services and e-governance, digital ICT infrastructure if our citizens don't have the education and the skills. So we want to begin to implement policies. And one of the policies they implemented was one laptop per child. So in Rwanda, every school going child or young student, they will distribute the laptops among every child. That you're not doing in school, you get a laptop, you take it home, and you can practice and do the things you want to do. So the government, it was a government policy. It was intentional because they know that they cannot fully realize the benefits of ICT if the citizens don't have the skill set and don't have the training to do that. So they had a one laptop per child policy. But Liberia, after 14 years of writing a brilliant ICT policy, show me a public school in Liberia that has a modern and well-established ICT lab. Not even the University of Liberia. After 14 years, as a country, as a nation, as the people, where is it at? It's non existence. Why? So you cannot bring this infrastructure, you cannot build these things if you don't have the necessary skill set. So then they also introduced ICT in education. So, and the reason they did that was to focus on equipping students with the necessary skill for the digital economy. I love that. Right? They equip the students from school because you're going to have a digital economy. And that's the same policy that it's the same framework that Singapore used. They had a digital economy, right? They had a digital society, and they had a digital government. So the people need to be educated, and Rwanda took that a step further. and introduce an ICT into the educational curriculum of the country. And a reason to equip every student with the necessary skill for the digital economy. The world we live in today, there's no way you're going to go find a job and they're not going to ask you if you have some kind of ICT skills. It's a very, very essential skill set to have. We need that to be able to function and work our way in the digital economy. All businesses, major businesses, small, big, large, medium size, require that employee to use digital equipment and digital services and systems. So if you have a society that you've implemented digital system and services, and your citizens are not, they don't have that regular education skill set, they cannot work in those sectors. So we need to incorporate into our curriculum ICT education at all levels, from elementary school, junior high school, community colleges, and at the university levels. And we need to support it with resources, and that's what is lacking. Go to the University of Liberia. I haven't been there, but people who've been there, do they have a functioning computer lab? Are there molding systems? Are there molding equipment? Are they up to date and up to standard? So Rwanda was intentional about it, and they took it a step further, right? Digital economy, governance from Singapore, and then digital society. Then Rwanda now is implementing innovation and entrepreneurship. They put that in there, and they have what they call innovation hubs. They're starting innovation hubs such as the Kigali Innovation Center and the Rwanda Innovation Fund supports startups and encourages entrepreneurship in the tech sector. So they intentionally establish innovation hubs, places where if you're a tech company, you want to start a tech business, right? You want to start a technology business. They provide you a space where they help you and guide you through the process and encourage you and support you financially. Because you know what? There's a lot of work to be done in that space. And they also collaborated with a lot of different global tech companies. And one of the companies, they partner with the Zipline for drone delivery of medical supplies and hosting centers for excellence, like African Institute for Mathematical Science. So a lot we can do. We can also partner with, a lot of major tech companies. They're not going to say no. They're willing to help. So the three pillars, and if you're going to take anything away from today, that the government need to focus on digital government implementation, but we cannot neglect digital society and the digital economy. They have to work in concert. We have to bring all three together at the same time, and the engine get rolling. And we need to invest. We need to put money in that space. We need to put money in that space so that we can reap the benefit. We can create jobs. Now, a lot of jobs we can create if we're going to put money in that space. Citizen engagement, improve disaster preparedness, which will not include to that yet as a country. On the role of data in decision making, analyzing data. I mean, data science is a big area, right? Where you gather data, and at the end of the day, you make informed decision from after analyzing the data. You use that analysis to make informed decisions. We saw that in the election process. So, because he got this number from here and this number. If you compare this and this is what the result is going to be. So the future is bright, and the goal is to have a concerted effort as a people and as a nation. We have to be informed. We have to be educated on these things as a country and as a people. And that's why Rethink Tech is here today. we are more so aligned with the digital society, empowering the citizens. But there's no reason why at this point in the 21st century, we haven't fully realized the importance of ICT. And as I stated a couple of weeks ago, we had the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Age of Revolution, the Internet boom, or the Internet era. And now the new thing that we have right now, or the e-commerce boom, is AI. That's artificial intelligence. That's the big thing. That's the next big thing in tech, and it's taking over. If you don't know, AI is the new thing. It's the new gold in a tech world, so to speak. But where are we? Are we even close to adapting AI in our system and society? Well, we don't even have the infrastructure, communication, telecommunication infrastructure. We don't even have that yet. Where do we start from? Well, it's not too late. We're not reinventing the wheels. All we need is to put the resources and put our mind to it that yes, we are setting aside this X amount of money or this X amount of resources and building an institution that can spearhead this process to see this country transforming itself into a digital society. Both our economy, both our governing process, and both our educational process as a society. We can do it. Others have done it. There's no reason why we'll have a brilliantly written ICT policy for the past 14 years and nothing has been done about it. Have we gone back to review those policies to see how where we are and what we need to get done? Where are we lacking and what we need to improve? And I think it's more about leadership. It's more about uh, leadership, and it's more about putting our money into where our mouth is. And if we're going to move forward in the 21st century and beyond, and not be left behind and be a particle in the world economy, then we need to fully adapt and invest heavily in ICT infrastructure in our country. Until we can do that, we'll still be scratching and wasting in our local parable to see wasting water on the back of a dog. Now the dog has fellows. If you waste water on it, it doesn't touch it, it doesn't penetrate the fellow that get to the skin, right? It just glide and slide down on the back of the dog. so, so they say when you're doing something that you're not achieving any result, they're like, well, you're just wasting water on the bark on the back of a dog because it's like it just slides down. There's no effect, there's no impact. So if you want to make a meaningful impact in that space and be a part of the global community, then we have to fully adapt and invest heavily in the ICT sector. As I said, at Retail Tech, that's where we are helping with the digital society to make sure that we have citizens that have the necessary digital skill set to be able to interact and use ICT in their daily life, in their professional life to achieve whatever they set to achieve. So we'll ask you for your support for our project in Sunnyboy. You can go down to retaintechfoundation.org and you can follow us on Facebook at Retain Tech. Thank you for joining us today. And my team are going to make it today. Hope to see you guys sometimes the course of the week or the first weekend next month. Until then, I'm Perceiver Yon Tozegona. It was a pleasure being here with you guys. If you'll be listening to this podcast after, know that we can do it and we all need everyone's support and everyone on board to be able to achieve what we need to achieve for our country and our people. It's a lot to do. You can contact us for our website if you want to discuss or talk about anything that we can do for you. we offer other services to as well. So talk to us, and let's see what how we can collaborate and how we can partner to improve technology and equip our people with the necessary digital skill set that they need. Thank you, and goodbye from my end. Bye bye.